From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. In today's show, Mark has a clip from the latest episode of Pods of Potential. I visit with Drake Robards of Corteva, and special correspondent Russ Parker wraps up his conversation with Keith Byerly of Mosaic. It's time now to welcome in our hosts, Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman.
Well, another busy episode of Iowa Ag Matters for you here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. And Dustin, as we think about the upcoming week, there's going to be a lot to keep track of. Of course, we have everything that's happening around the world in terms of conflict right now, how that's relating to the ag marketplace and to agriculture in general. We also have the upcoming, what we assume to be the RVO announcement that's going to take place at the White House later this week as part of the celebration of agriculture at the White House South Lawn. And then we think about next week when we have the prospective plannings report. There's just a lot to keep track of as it relates to agriculture right now.
Yeah, there is. It's getting to be that time of year. And of course, after that, the planters are going to start rolling in different areas sooner rather than later as we get ever closer to getting that done. Of course, the weather, boy, Friday and Saturday felt like we could be getting in the fields and had to turn the AC on. In fact, we talked about this earlier. I had to turn the AC on Saturday because it was just hot. I have no shade around my house. But then yesterday, Sunday, I had to go and turn the furnace back on by the end of the night because it was starting to get cold in there. So Mother Nature is still a little bit crazy here right now, but I'm glad that we've cooled back a little bit, as you mentioned too. I don't want to go from winter straight into summer.
No, I'd never like that. I like having all four seasons. That's one of the benefits to me of living in the Midwest. And I know some people are probably rolling their eyes at that because of how long of our winter season that we have and how hot it can get in the summer. But I like to have a little bit of spring, and I don't want us to go straight from winter into summer-like weather. And now that we are officially in spring, it actually does kind of feel a little bit like spring here today. And in the upcoming days, it's going to be more normal temperatures for that. And yes, that is, we are still slightly warming up, and that's going to mean that planters are going to be out in the fields here not too long as we get those soil temperatures to where we need them to be. And as we've talked about many times on the show, we know that soybean farmers are getting out there early and earlier every single year.
Yeah, that they are. And just looking at the 4-inch soil temperatures that have been measured across the state, ranging anywhere from the low mid 40s up into some low 50s in some spots in the south central and southeastern parts of the state. Again, it's starting to get closer. I mean, you got to sustain those temperatures over 55 for fertilizer application. We only got one area that's really reporting in that general area, and that's the extreme southeastern part of the state, down around Keokuk, and that area is where we're seeing temps in the mid 50s. Otherwise, we're inching closer. It's getting to be that time, and of course, that's all depending on whether or not Mother Nature decides she wants to play nice at all here as we're moving along here today. But again, mostly mid 40s, the rule of thumb here as we're looking at those soil temperatures. So it's getting close. We're going to go ahead and start things off with the grains. They've been a little bit back and forth, especially on the soybean side, with some rumors. So we're going to hear more from Greg McBride of Allendale as he talks with Mark Magnuson.
Joined today by Greg McBride of Allendale for the opening market discussion. Greg, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
A lot of back and forth overnight and this morning. It's really just headline trading. The headline over the weekend was President Trump putting a 48-hour clock on Iran, saying that if they didn't open the Strait of Hormuz, that he was going to hit, the U.S. was going to hit their power grid. And then they retaliated with threats that they were going to take out power grids of neighboring countries. We started out with some strength in the crude oil. We started out with a little bit of strength in the grains, and then it came backing off this morning when President Trump then announced that he was going to push that deadline to 5 days because there had been good conversations between the U.S. and Iranians. 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, the Iranians disavowed that, said that wasn't it, and all this. So we're just playing dueling headlines here. Currently, as we trade the early part of the day session, we do have corn down about 5 or 6 cents. We've got the wheat down about 7 to 11 cents, which is kind of an interesting situation considering that how hot and dry the winter wheat areas have been for the past few weeks and were over the weekend. It's not an ideal situation down in like Kansas, Oklahoma, and northern Texas. So continue to watch that. Beans down a couple of cents as we play back and forth right now, but crude oil has gone from $3.50 to $4 higher, back above 100 to down about $10 and sub 90 again at this point. So we're just playing this volatility game and headline trade. Really kind of what it's going to end up doing. A lot of people are going to end up standing aside and waiting for some of this to calm down before they make decisions about what they need to do next.
So, Greg, in the short term at least, do you think that the main driver on the grain side will continue to be the conflict news and trading off of headlines, or do you think we're starting to think about the prospective plannings report and getting ahead of that at the end of the month?
I think in the very short term, it's what the crude oil and the headlines about the war are going to be. I think the couple of things that you've got coming up, you've got that RVO update that we're going to get on Friday at the Celebration of Agriculture that the president is hosting, and then obviously the prospective plantings and quarterly grain stocks reports next week as well. I think that's your medium term, and then the long term kind of goes back to the unknown, which is the planting situation and the Iranian war. And it's at this point, it is a bunch of bluster in both directions. And I think what producers need to continue to watch is what makes sense for their operations. Where are their break evens? Obviously, there's going to be increased costs for fertilizers and whatnot, but what is that going to do to acreage? Because I don't think that's necessarily as big of a deal this year as it could be for next year if this Iran situation keeps going.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland, the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
Well, we are back on Iowa Ag Matters, and on Friday we started here a conversation with Russ Parker talking with the folks at Mosaic, Keith Byerly there, as we are going to hear more about the products and stuff they have available for you as we get ready to go into 2026 growing season.
We were talking a little bit earlier about residue, and it sounds like that's a topic that you've spent some time with too. Look, can you share?
Residue is an issue for every single grower. I don't care if you grow corn, if you grow wheat, if you grow canola, wherever you're at in the country, somebody's got a residue issue, and it's usually you. We've tried for years to get through that. We've baled residue. We've disked in and tilled residue to get it underneath the ground to help speed up that decomposition. And at the end of the day, those are all fine solutions, but we also know that they cost a lot of money. So we're working on a unique product. It's called Inzara, and it's an enzyme that goes through the field anytime after the crop is harvested up until the next growing season, and it opens up the plant. It acts like a tiny set of teeth going through the outside of our residue to make entry points for the naturally occurring bacteria out in the field to break down cellulose. And with that, we're looking at increasing plantability, increasing stands, and increasing populations for those fields. And if we can do those things and set that next crop up to have better access to not only sunlight and emergence, but also nutrients, ultimately, we've set the next crop up to be in a good place without necessarily having to turn the soil completely over and turn it black to get there.
So what's the application process? How does this work?
So it's a liquid application. It can go on anytime after the plant has turned brown. It does not work on green plant tissue. So apply it to dead plant material out there. It's a low use rate. It's 16 ounces an acre. And it can be mixed with herbicide. It can be mixed with fertilizer. It's a broadcast application on the surface.
So if I'm thinking through this also leaves the residue on the ground. So I'm thinking it's a great environment for cover crop and no-till or minimum till.
You've still got all of those soil health benefits of keeping that soil covered, keeping it protected. And it can also be a great piece to come in after those cover crops as well. Once we've terminated those cover crops and got them down and away from being green into brown, we can speed up that process of getting them melted down, hopefully shorten that nutrient tie-up that's associated with the cover crops and get those nutrients back into the corn or soybean system quicker.
Okay, well, Keith, if we have gotten a listener here to be intrigued, where's a good place where they can get some more information about Mosaic?
The best place to start is with your local ag retailer. We've been working with them for years. If your local retailer doesn't work with Mosaic, go to cropnutrition.com and you can learn more there.
Okay, thanks very much, Keith. I've been with Keith Byerly with the Mosaic Company. Keith, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, Russ.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, you need reliable information. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network brings you ag-specific content like market trends, weather outlooks, and policy updates that matter to your operation, while your local station brings you community news and consistent updates on what is happening in your area. It's a partnership built for the challenges of rural life. Your farm, your local station, and your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters. Find us online at iowaagnet.com. Time to run down those cash basis bids for you here on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Dustin Huffman. Only seeing one elevator make a change here today on those bids. It was one that raised their soybean bid by about 5 cents. We'll take a look at where they're pricing today. At ADM Burlington, they're 20 cents under on corn, $4.43. Soybeans 45 cents under at $11.15. Cargill and Eddyville 24 cents under on corn, $4.39. New Co-op Algona, 46 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.17. Soybeans 80 cents under, cash bid $10.80. Ag State Sheldon, 30 cents under on corn, $4.33. Soybeans 90 cents under, $10.70. Ag State Alta, 47 cents under on corn, $4.16. Soybeans 85 cents under at $10.75. Cargill Cedar Rapids, 17 cents under on corn, $4.46 for the cash bid. Soybeans 35 cents under at $11.25. Five-Star Co-op Nashua, 30 cents under on corn, $4.33. Soybeans 71 cents under at $10.89. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada, 28 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.35. ADM Des Moines, 40 cents under on soybeans, cash price $11.20. New Co-op Red Oak, 37 cents under on corn, $4.26. Soybeans 78 cents under at $10.82. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain, 48 cents under on corn, $4.15 for the cash bid. Soybeans 85 cents under, $10.75. New Co-op Sheraton, 37 cents under on corn, $4.26. Soybeans 78 cents under, cash price $10.82. Walk-On Feed Ranch, 45 cents under on corn, $4.18. Soybeans 73 cents under at $10.87. At New Co-op Glidden, they're 45 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.18. Soybeans 78 cents under, $10.82. Innovative Ag Farley, 48 cents under on corn, $4.15. Soybeans 76 cents under at $10.84. And at Cargill Muscatine, they're 23 cents under on corn at $4.40. Soybeans 52 cents under, they're coming in at $11.08. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevators when making sales to obtain the most recent price. That's been a rundown of your cash corn and soybean bids here on Iowa Ag Matters. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Stay informed with the closing market report from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your essential summary of the day's market activities and their impact on the agricultural economy. Join us for timely updates and expert commentary on commodity prices and market trends with trusted ag market analysts from around the Midwest. Tune in every Monday through Friday on your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate for your daily market recap and insights to stay ahead in the ag economy.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and we're going to go ahead and share some of the latest episode of Pods of Potential. The March episode is out. You can listen to that up on our website at iowaagnet.com with the folks at the Iowa Soybean Association. Here's Mark Magnuson.
Today's topic of discussion is 2025's research trial results and insights. And I'm here today with our friends at the Iowa Soybean Association's Research Center for Farming Innovations, Technical Insights Manager Rosie Cook, and also joined by Clay County farmer Paul Castle.
The Iowa Soybean Association's Research Center for Farming Innovation, driven to deliver productive, profitable, and sustainable practices to Iowa's farmers.
We're here today at Paul's farm in Clay County, which would be just south of Spencer. And let's start things off by getting to know Rosie and Paul a little bit better. And for our podcast listeners, might not realize this, Rosie helps out a lot in the podcast in terms of Pods of Potential. More on the background side of things, Rosie. So let's get to know you a little bit so our listeners can get a better picture of what you do day to day, how you got involved with research, first of all, your background, and your areas of interest, or maybe a specialty that you really enjoy, Rosie.
Absolutely. It's really fun for me to be on this side of the podcast and the recording, because as Mark said, I'm usually on the back end helping with content creation. So as a technical insights manager with the Iowa Soybean Association, I work really closely with our research and conservation staff to help better develop insights and drive outreach for our various research, conservation, and habitat restoration projects that we do. Basically, I'm focused on helping to get our research results off the shelf and into the hands of more farmers and agronomists. So a little bit about my background. In a past life, I actually was a conservation agronomist up here in Paul's neck of the woods in far northwest Iowa, really focusing on helping farmers implement conservation through an agronomic lens. And so today, on top of everything else, I farm up in Mitchell County with my husband, Adam, and we produce row crops, specialty crops, and cattle. So that whole slew of experiences really helps with my day-to-day job of helping to get our projects in the hands of more farmers, because not only am I wearing my agronomy hat, but I'm also wearing my farmer hat, trying to make sure that we're hitting the mark with all of the results and program opportunities that we're sharing with farmers.
So Rosie, I hear row crops and cattle, that's old hat for the state of Iowa, but what specialty crops do you grow?
Yeah, so my husband and I, we grow and pack onions and potatoes under the brand name Kittleson Brothers, alongside our business partners, Steve and Beth Verhoot, who also farm up in the Mitchell County area. So you can see our potatoes in a lot of grocery stores in central and eastern Iowa under that Kittleson Brothers brand name. And then we also sell to some repackers that send them across the Midwest as well. But yeah, so that's a really fun way that I'm able to play on both my agronomy and my farmer hat to learn more about not just corn and soybeans that tie in really closely with my day-to-day job, but also the same agronomic principles apply to onions and potatoes as well.
And then, as I mentioned, we're here today at Paul Castle's farm in Clay County. And Paul, you have a unique perspective, I think, when we come into this podcast, because not only are you on the Iowa Soybean Association board, but in the past, you've worked for Iowa State Extension. So could you tell me, please, your experience with agronomy, either of those roles that you've been involved in the past and currently, and then also could you tell us a little bit about your farm, your operation, and then your research that you've been involved with at Iowa State University on your farm, anything that's kind of stood out to you over the years?
Okay, yeah, I've been fortunate enough to kind of have two careers in a way, but I spent about 40 years with Iowa State University Extension as a field agronomist, which is, sometimes people ask, what is that? Well, it's adult education for crop production. So, like we're an extension of the university. That's the old term. The new one is, I think, lifelong learning, but it's, adult education for, I tell people soil and fertilizer and weeds, insects, diseases, and crop management, planting date, replanting, things like that, hail damage. So those are the things I was involved with there. I was very fortunate also to be able to start farming in the mid 90s, I guess it was. We bought an acreage and rented the machinery and rented the land that the people had that owned the acreage. And so I was able to start that business as well. And right now, just corn and soybean production. I joke with people, my only livestock is a few spoiled barn cats, but yeah, just corn and soybeans. I guess we did have sheep and rabbits and chickens as 4-H projects back when. So there was some livestock here at one time, but yeah, now just corn and soybeans. And I have planted my soybeans no-till. I think, I don't know, in 5 or 6 years, it's enough that I forgot. And I've used cover crops on about half of that every year. And and has its challenges, but and I kind of like having the agronomy background, but I also tell people it's fairly easy to do as well. So fairly straightforward. So yeah, that would be my background there.
So for example, when you talk about no-till, were you employing no-till practices on your farm even before you were involved with Iowa Soybean Association?
Yeah, I was. And a lot of it, driven by timeliness. And again, that's Iowa Soybean research on planting date and Iowa State University research, and then just farmer interaction and people's anecdotal experiences with it. So yes, the no-till soybean production is, again, not a huge challenge. A lot of people do it. There's a lot of it in this area. My older brother farms about 20 miles east of here in Palo Alto County, jokes that must be a requirement in Clay County to plant no-till, because it does change about a Ruthven. There's a lot of folks plant no-till soybeans in this area and west of here as well. So.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
Well, we are getting ready for National Ag Day coming up tomorrow, Mark. Again, a moment when we all take time to thank those who are providing the food, the fuel, and the fiber that we need to do our daily lives. I mean, without farmers in the ag industry, we wouldn't be eating or anything, as well as we are. And it helps us keep food costs as low as we can. And of course, talking about what we're doing to produce, it's always a great time to take a moment and honor these farmers before they get ready to go in the field and grow another crop.
Yes, it is. It's always a good time to show appreciation. And speaking of that, we have a Farmer Appreciation Luncheon from News Talk 1540 KXEL and 107.3 Hank FM. That is coming up on Wednesday, March 25th. And the luncheon will be held at the National Cattle Congress Pavilion in Waterloo from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And that is free for all to attend, but you do have to sign up so they make sure they have enough food. So go to kxel.com/farmer, kxel.com/farmer to get signed up for that event.
This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson, joined at midday by Justin McKinney of Comstock. Justin, what's happening in the trade in the grains?
Pretty wild range on the day today on the corn and the soybeans for that matter. Right now we got old crop corn down 4, new crop corn down about $0.0175, which is, fairly sizable, 7 cents or so off the lows of the day. So a little bit of recovery happening in the corn. Over on the soybeans, trading 7 cents better on the May contract. Well, the November is up 6.5. We did have some flash sales this morning. I'm sure you talked about those already, but they didn't really provide much fuel right off the bat. It kind of seems like we're definitely following that crude oil market where that has traded. I mean, the nearby WTI contract has traded a $15 range today.
And then, Justin, this morning we were theorizing that President Trump's comments about the conflict in the Middle East having a lot to do with the price movement in the markets, both overall and in the ag marketplace. Is that how you see it as well?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you could go back and look at a 5-minute chart or 10-minute chart, whatever. When those comments came out this morning, boy, we definitely turned the markets quite a bit lower, very quickly. So I don't know. It seems like the longer the day goes on, maybe we're not. The crude oil market's buying into the rhetoric. We're off the lows quite a ways, but the grain market maybe not quite putting as much stock into that as we move forward.
And then also, Justin, coming up later this week, we are expecting a big announcement from President Trump, and we think it's going to be the RVO's announcement. How much of that has been factored into the markets, and how much will happen when that announcement is made, if it happens?
Well, soybean oil is very reactive to any sort of headline news. We're trading about $4 or so off the top of that market. So maybe we'll get a challenge or a pushback because that was old highs, potentially better than that. I personally struggle with getting overly bullish. We asked for those RVOs last year. It was the 5.4, 5.6 after they waived the small refinery exemptions. And pushed them back on to the market. So I just really struggled to see EPA come out with something better than what we asked for. And again, we've known that that's what was asked for, that 5.4 to 5.6 last year. So it sure feels like maybe we're pricing a bunch of that in already.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
Absolutely, Mark. They can call me direct here at 320-589-4345. Main line at 712-227-1110.
Farmers, stay on top of your local market with Basis Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Every day, we bring you the latest corn and soybean cash prices from inland grain elevators and river terminals across Iowa. Get the prices you need to make the best-selling decisions, no matter where you are in the state. Basis Matters connects you to the numbers that matter most to your farm. Tune in every weekday only on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network and make informed grain marketing decisions with Basis Matters.
May corn down 4 3/4 at $4.60 3/4. May soybeans up 5 1/4 at $11.66 1/2. May soybean meal down $1.70 at $3.26.30. May soybean oil up 52 cents at $66.03. On the Merc, April live cattle up 23 cents at $234.28. April feeder cattle unchanged at $351.18. April lean hogs down 33 cents at $90.95. That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
Back into the markets we go here on Iowa Ag Matters, turning our attention to what's going on in the cattle and the hogs. Cattle looking to have a little bit stronger day as the morning has gone on. So hogs looking a little bit weaker. Mark Magnuson has more with Greg McBride of Allendale.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
Well, on Friday, we got the cattle on feed report, and it came in pretty well as expected. You did have placements that were significantly or about 3 to 4% higher than was expected at 103.7. We had on feed come in essentially the same as last year at 99%, and marketings were sitting at 93.2%. So it was a little bit on the bear side, but with the strength, and we've talked about this in the past with the watching the stock market, with the strength in the stock market this morning after all this back and forth regarding Iran, you got the Dow up 900 points, you got the NASDAQ up 500, the S&P is up 119. The cattle did try to go a little bit lower. Now they're popping back up about $1.75 to $1 higher in fat cattle, and $1 to $1.20 higher in the feeders. You are going to see a lower print on the feeder cattle index. Cash from what we saw last week was slightly lower to about steady with the week before. So there is still some negativity when it comes to the fundamentals of the cattle market. But again, if we're going to be influenced by the stock market today, that right now that would lean us back to the high side a little bit.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
Give us a call at 800-2-MARKET. That's 800-262-7538.
Greg McBride of Allendale, my guest here today. Greg, thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great week.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Mark.
Stay up to date with the latest in the ag industry with Agribusiness Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Each weekday, we bring you the latest advancements in farming, from new precision ag technology to cutting-edge sustainable farming practices. Agribusiness Matters is also your source for the most relevant ag news, policy discussions, and insights that are shaping the future of agriculture. Tune in to Agribusiness Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
You're listening to Iowa Ag Matters, and Riley Smith going to learn about the soybean herbicide profile from Corteva. Here's Riley Smith with more.
Visiting with Drake Robards of Corteva and visiting today about the soybean herbicide portfolio. And I know last year a huge focus was on the corn side just from all of the sudden disease that came up, but there's still many diseases that we're looking at every year for soybeans to be managing. And weed pressure as well, huge into that. And when we look at the issues from last year that we were managing on that soybean side of things, what were some of the top weeds that were really sticking out, especially in the Midwest?
Yeah, I think you hear a lot about water hemp, obviously Palmer amaranth, some other grasses as well, mare's tails in there, but water hemp seems to be top of mind for most growers and most retailers that are trying to manage resistance.
So when we look at, we have kind of three exciting products to discuss for the herbicide. Now, Sonic Boom, that Kyber Pro, and Inversa. Starting off with Sonic Boom, what are we going after when we're looking at that product?
Yeah, so Sonic Boom was launched last year to great effect. It's in the mid-tier of the portfolio of the brand ladder. So it is a liquid premix. It goes on pre. It's a co-formulated crystalline structure, so provides excellent crop tolerance, crop safety tolerance. And then after that, you've got Kyber Pro, which is in the premium tier of the brand ladder for the portfolio. And that's also a pre that has three modes of action, and really, really great weed control there. So, when we talk about a clean field, starting out with Sonic Boom or Kyber Pro to start with before you even plant to get your field clean is really critical to all season success. And then coming back in season with Enlist, and then tank mixing with Inversa, which that's the other one you mentioned. That's our encapsulated acetyl core. So that's our post residual that we offer. And we launched that 2 years ago and have sold out, and we are tripling volumes year over year. So huge success there. So that's the three new ones. Inversa, that's our post residual, and then Kyber Pro and Sonic Boom for our pre to start clean.
And you mentioned, having like the pre-emergence, post-residual. Starting with the pre-emerge, having that residual, the post as well, is very important to not only getting ahead of that weed control, but staying on top of it, because we know if there's even a small lapse in that control, the weeds can get in there, and once they're there, they're really tough to get rid of, right?
Correct, yeah. And, with growers planting earlier and earlier and more narrow rows, it is harder to control, which is why if you can get out there, you can get your pre-applied at the right rate, at the right time. We've just seen time and time again a lot of success.
And how about the flexibility of this program fitting into a farmer's operation? I mean, there's many options that they can look at to, I'm sure, timing of when and what goes out at a certain time. Really a flexibility that farmers can depend on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so finances are probably top of mind now too. I think where you are in the country matters, and geographically, but weed control is top of mind. A lot of growers across Iowa do not want to see the water hemp, the mare's tail in their field, but also at the same time, they have to manage the budget and optimize yield. So I think the flexibility and variation that we provide is, we've got different products at different parts of the brand ladder, depending on the acre. So we've done a really good job of positioning that. Our field teams have done a really good job of selling through that and showing demand and showing value that generates the demand.
All right, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to stay up to date on the soybean herbicide program from Corteva, how can they do that?
Yeah, you can easily Google, Corteva soybean herbicides, and you'll eventually find your way there. That's probably the easiest way to do it. And then, of course, we've got a lot of great field sales reps that promote and position our products across the countryside. So we got a lot of boots on the ground that work with our retailers and growers every day across Iowa.
All right, thanks again for your time. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right, awesome. There we go.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Your local radio station keeps you connected to your community. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network provides ag-focused programming to keep your farm business running strong. Together, we bring you the latest markets, weather updates, and policy news. Whether we're in the field or in meeting halls, our team is always out and about gathering the news that's important to you. Powered by Iowa Agriculture, trusted by Iowa farmers. This message from your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Well, that is going to put the wraps on another episode of Iowa Ag Matters here for today. Of course, don't forget National Ag Day tomorrow. There's a lot of commemorations going on around the state, so make sure you are thanking a farmer for the hard work they are doing. Thanks to Mark, thanks to Riley, and of course, thanks to you for listening. We'll be back here again tomorrow for another edition of Iowa Ag Matters. This is the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.